Hello, everyone. Welcome to our reading for September. I personally am incredibly so excited. I can't even say the word incredibly very well because I'm so incredibly excited that September is here because summer in Austin, Texas, where I live, has been quite brutal and we've had very high temperatures. We've had 100-degree or better temperatures 54 days in a row. I have seen it rain 2 times this summer, and neither of those times were really like beefy, long-term rains. They were pretty short-lived. So all our poor trees and our poor plants, all of our little squirrels and raccoons and birds are really having a rough time out there because it's so hot. And I'm a believer in climate change, and I believe that that is directly responsible, in addition to El Nino, for the temperatures that we're having this summer. And I'm personally feeling like it's time that we declared a climate crisis in this country and started making some really big changes because it's not going to get better if we don't. It's going to get worse. And I don't want to live through summers that are worse than this. I don't want the animals and the birds, which are also animals, I don't want them living through it either. And I think about our young kids, the younger generations. What worlds will they come up in? So, because I'm here talking about tarot, I'm going to go ahead and throw in some personal beliefs and also a little call to action. If you feel similarly to the way I feel, I hope that in different spaces and ways that you can also say things like, it's time to declare a climate emergency, or sign those petitions, or watch how you use energy and other forms of waste products in your life. We must take action. It's getting pretty dire. And thank you for entertaining my public service announcement before we get into the reading today, which I will do just a moment from now. I want to set the table a little bit and just acknowledge that we are in the middle of Virgo season, and Virgos really emphasize structure and efficiency, and they are good at going into spaces and situations and figuring out like what's not working or what could work better. They're also very service oriented. They like to use these skills to make sure that more people have what they need, whether that's education, good food, support of all kinds. So Virgo gives us that earthy structure and support. And opposite of Virgo in the zodiacal wheel is Pisces. And we just had a big, beautiful blue supermoon in Pisces just a couple of days ago. And some of you may have felt the big emotional surge that Pisces energy can bring into your life. Pisces is a water sign. It is the final sign in the zodiac. So it's also considered the wisest. And I think it's really interesting that the wisest sign in the zodiac is a heart-centered and an emotional sign. Water, of course, as an element, is connected to the emotions, to our emotional experience and the way that we feel. And so that wisdom really sits in the heart. And I believe that's true, that while we have excellent minds that can do amazing things and solve a lot of problems, that our true power lies in our ability to feel and emotionally express and emotionally connect. And our reading is very much about that. And this reading this month comes from the Fifth Spirit Tarot by Charlie Claire Burgess. This is a gender inclusive and queer centered tarot deck. I am really loving the way that it talks to me. It feels very supportive and nourishing and lighthearted. As you work with tarot, you'll notice that different decks kind of have a different tone of voice, a different personality. Some are harsher, some are very loving, some are a little sarcastic, but I really find this one to be very relatable and quite lovely. So, and the message we get this month from this deck is quite lovely too. And it's really a message about moving toward the heart, and I will show you how. Our first card is the Five of Swords. And actually our second card, I will go ahead and show you as well, is the Eight of Swords. 2 swords cards. The swords are the air element and are associated with the mind. And these 2 cards in particular are associated, I would say, these are the most self-sabotagey cards in the deck. It's not like when you pull them, you will automatically self-sabotage, but they describe to us what happens and what it feels like and why maybe we don't want to stay in a pattern of self-sabotage. So first, let me say that self-sabotage happens in the mind. That's the place where self-sabotage is created. No other place than that. I mean, we could say like our psychology, but our psychology kind of plays out not only in our nervous system, but also in our brains. And the Five of Swords is a card that describes to us a situation where you showed up wanting a certain outcome, and maybe you get the outcome you want, but you went about it in a way that doesn't really align with your values, or in a way that causes you to lose out on something else. And so the victory is a little bit hollow. And we have in this card 3 knives, kind of stabbed in the sand at the beach, and 2 laying on the ground, and this flag waving overhead. And kind of suggestive that maybe there was a knife fight here earlier at some point, and there were some casualties. In a traditional deck, you will see also 3 figures in this card. And one of them is in the foreground holding 3 of the swords and looking like wearing a little bit of like the face of a car salesman, let's say, who's like just pulled one over on an unsuspecting buyer, maybe sold a lemon of a car to a naive first-time buyer, right? And then in the background, you'll see 2 figures whose backs are turned and whose posture is a little bit slumped, hunched over, and they're walking away and they've dropped their swords on the ground. So it's as if they all showed up for this sword fight. And what happens is the guy in the front with all the swords, he really didn't play by the rules, or he came with his own set of rules and his own agenda, not for the fun of a sword fight, but maybe to win at any cost. And so the other 2 figures have walked away because this isn't the game that they came to play. And so the gentleman in the front has all these swords, but he really got them through false or degraded kind of means. And we can do this to ourselves in a lot of different ways. And I think primarily we have certain thoughts that we can't do certain things, or that we're not the type of person who can achieve a certain thing, or have a relationship with a certain kind of person. We just have stories about what we can and can't do, why we can and can't do it, how it's meant for other people to do, but not for us. And the more we reinforce those stories don't actually change our desire to want such things. So the desire is still there, and that desire will actually pull us forward or pull us toward the things that we want. But the beliefs that we have in our mind will cause us to get in our own way, because we don't think we're actually deserving of the thing that we're going after. And so this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy where we believe that we can't have something or we don't deserve something. And then we end up getting a version of the thing that feels empty, or it feels like we shouldn't even accept it, or the way that we went about bringing it into our lives was so negative that we almost don't want it anymore. So by holding on to these beliefs of what we can and can't do, we may come to have the things that we want, but not in a satisfying way. Or we might get close to having something that we want, but kind of pull the rug out from under ourselves unconsciously. We're taking actions to disrupt the process of fulfillment, to reinforce that belief that we don't deserve it. We don't know how to actually receive it because we don't think that we deserve to receive it. So that's what 5 of Swords can look like. And then we have the 8 of Swords, which has a similar but slightly different vibe. This one has to do with the way that our minds create a kind of cage or prison that we keep ourselves inside. So this is kind of like an invisible cage that we're not always, obviously in this card, we see a lot of scissors. And I think that's a great representation for the cages that we create for ourselves. They're very sharp. They're very cold. They're very difficult to move out of. But in the end, they're also just a bunch of pair of scissors that we can pick up and toss out. And so, similar to the beliefs and the thoughts I was talking about that might create self-sabotage in our lives, we also have sets of thoughts and beliefs very similar to some of the ones I just described, what we can and can't do, what we are and aren't capable of, how we're not the kind of person who like looks like they should be living this life, or because of something that happened to us in the past, we can't have a certain kind of future. And so every thought we have like this creates a narrowness, a confinement. And so we move through our lives with this cage of beliefs all around us that of what we can and can't do and why or why not, and how some things are for other people and not for us. And so instead of like moving freely in pursuit of the things that we desire, we move in a limited way, carrying this invisible cage that's really preventing us from taking certain kinds of action or pursuing certain kinds of things. So while we have really powerful, amazing minds as human beings, those powerful minds can also create powerful cages that we live in, or they can create powerful dynamics that cause us to repeat experiences and patterns that we're not proud of and that don't feel satisfying and that do take us close to things we want, but ultimately rob us from actually feeling the fulfillment of that. So this is how our reading is starting out. All these swords, a lot of conversation here about what's going on in the mind and how the mind can be a trap. And the other thing I want to say about the mind is that we often don't notice this. We think we think so many thoughts every day, like tens of thousands of thoughts. And some inordinate amount of those thoughts, like more than a majority of those thoughts, are thoughts that repeat themselves. And they're just running through our minds. We're not even noticing what all of the thoughts are. We're just having them. They happen. There's so many of them. We're thinking all day. It's just sort of the white noise of our lives. So we kind of passively create and recreate and run on autopilot all of these thoughts that are not ultimately usually very empowering, though we can change that. And so when we bring some of these thoughts into our awareness, because we're just not noticing, we're not noticing that they're unconscious or that they're automatic or that they're not even true. We kind of take all of these thoughts as though they're like headline news. Like it must be true. It's just the truth. When actually it's just a thought. Okay. So our final card, we got swords and more swords. We got self-sabotage and cages created by the mind. And then comes a little bit of relief in the form of the King of Cups, who here looks very much to me like Mr. Rogers. I'm going to try to get the card in focus for you. Seated at his bench, just inside the door, changing his shoes, having just probably changed his sweater. And I think Mr. Rogers is a perfect role model for this card. The King of Cups is one of the masters of the emotions and someone who can use their mastery of emotion and the heart in a service-oriented way, like Virgo, who can extend that mastery of emotion, not only use it to kind of govern their lives and create boundaries and also decide how they want to help and offer people support, but then getting to actually spread that emotional wisdom to other people through intimacy, conversation, teaching. And Mr. Rogers was an incredible, wise, amazing teacher when it came to emotions. He was very focused on helping children understand what their emotions are, express their emotions, and feel like whatever their emotions were okay. as I'm sure you experienced in childhood, there are many emotions that humans have that other humans don't find very welcome, or we think they're not socially acceptable, or that they're embarrassing to share with the world or to place in public. And so as children, we learn, happy, cheerful, positive emotions are welcome and expected, but anger, sadness, tears, emotions like this, the more challenging emotions for us, the ones that make us a little bit more uncomfortable, that those should be hidden. So the result is that we hide our pain. We don't share it with people in the way that we might if we had been given a different set of beliefs. And we just get really cut off from the wisdom of the heart. But as Mr. Rogers taught us, the heart has an incredible amount of wisdom. He was also a big evangelist for kindness and like moving from a place of kindness, which to me is also the same as moving from a place located in the heart. So I think what we're being asked to do is really examine right now, like, I said, Virgo is great at like tidying up spaces or looking for the inefficiencies, finding the leaks and determining how things could move more sharply or how things could go forward more effectively. And so I think what we're being asked to do here is to take a look around inside of our own selves and particularly our brains and say, like, what thoughts am I thinking that are causing me to feel feelings that maybe are not serving me, causing me to take actions that I don't actually feel that proud of, and might be causing me to just stay still and stay stuck when I actually really want to be moving forward and making an attempt and growing in different ways and trying things that I've never done before. So I think taking that kind of inventory for ourselves is really important. And then we can ask ourselves, like, okay, what thoughts am I thinking? What beliefs do I have? Are they really, really, really true? Like, do I really know that they're facts? They're not facts. And if I have a choice to change them, which you do, how do I want to change them? And what would I like to think to myself instead? And so then comes the heart part, which I think is really hard for us to do. Like I said, we've been kind of cut off from the heart space, or we may feel in our lives that we are only allowed to open that space up with other people under certain conditions or only with specific people who are really, really, really close to. And that may be a good move because that's who you feel safe with. But it means when we build a wall to protect something or to prevent one part of ourselves from being seen, the wall is there not only in the circumstances in which we want to use it, it's also there in other circumstances when we want to take the wall down. So that's one reason why it's really hard, I think, to come into our heart space and to stay connected to that space. I certainly struggle with it myself, being an earth sign like a Virgo. To help us do that really quick, I hope I can keep it really quick. I just want to do a little meditation, a little visualization, feeling into the body for a few minutes. If you would like to try it with me, you can also mark this and come back to it to do it another time. But take the message I've given and really think about how that may apply to you. And also, like I said, head over to your tarot scope and see if there's more there that serves you in this inquiry. And if you want to stick around, let's try a little heart-centeredness. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and settle into your seat. You might even want to lay down on the floor if that feels more comfortable for you. Get situated, get settled, take some deep, big breaths. Maybe roll your shoulders around, roll your neck around a little bit. Move however you feel you need to move before you settle in. Take a couple of the biggest, deepest breaths you had all day. Maybe even hold your breath briefly at the top of your inhale and release with a big sigh. Before we start, I just want you to connect to a part of the body that is anchored to your chair, to the floor, to the earth, some part of your body that is being supported right now. And just feel the solidity of that space, the support you're getting in that space. Feel into the substance and the groundedness of having something firm right beneath you, supporting you, holding you. Then I invite you to draw your attention up to the space of your mind. So, thinking about like the skin over your forehead, touching into the part of your body that is your scalp, your hair, and then inside that, the skull and the brain. Just feeling this kind of like brain cap on the top of your head and just noticing, how does it feel today? What is the energy like in that space? Is it calm and settled, or is it a little frenetic, chaotic? If you could connect the sensation of this mind space with a weather pattern, what might it be? And just noticing and observing whatever you feel today is perfectly fine. You don't even have to change it. Just notice. You might even notice some of the thoughts that are floating through your mind. You might notice if they race across your mind, if they pop through your mind like popcorn. How do they arrive and arise in the space of your mind? Just staying curious, just noticing. Let's give our brains a little gratitude for all of the incredible and difficult work that they do day in and day out, solving problems, remembering things, making sentences, sending signals to your body, taking in tons of information, processing it, storing your memories. Just give thanks. And now I invite you to move your attention to the space of your heart. You might even place a hand over the space to draw your attention down for just a few moments. Just begin to notice first how your breath moves through this space, how it flows around the heart, how it causes the space around the heart to rise and fall. Begin to imagine the space of the heart like a chamber. Not only the organ of the heart itself, but a whole energy and an aura around the heart, an energy field. You might even notice a color in the space. You might notice that energy swirling, pulsing, moving, settling. Continue to notice how your breath affects the movement of the energy in this chamber, how it animates the energy, refreshes the energy, supports the energy. Then I want you to bring to your heart mind an image of someone or something that you love unconditionally. Maybe a pet, a child, a partner, a dear friend, maybe one of the birds or animals that live around your home. Just connect with an image of this subject or this object of your unconditional love. And notice what happens in the space of your heart when you connect to this feeling. Does the space become warmer or cooler? Does the energy begin to move differently? As you feel into this sensation of love, how does this affect the breath? How does that connection between the breath and the heart grow stronger? How does it shift? Just noticing. With your attention on this feeling of love in the space of your heart, use your breath to make that energy a bit larger, expanding it, making that chamber inflate like a balloon. Maybe it's getting as large as your chest. Maybe it's growing even bigger than your entire body. Maybe now you're sitting inside of it. Think of this loving energy that is your heart as its own kind of sun, like a big ball of fire, a big ball of energy. And notice how that energy, with your breath and with your intention, can move outward, can move beyond you, can transmit into the world. Send that out in a couple directions where you'd like it to go. Maybe send it to some friends or family members who may be struggling right now. Maybe send it to Mother Earth, all the animals who are out there trying to make it wherever you want it to go. And then pull that energy back towards yourself. Feel those love beams turned inward. even traveling all the way around the earth and back to find you. As you settle into this feeling or receive these love beams, just notice, how is your mind affected? How is your mind different now than it was when we began? How is the energy in the space of your mind? And if there was a conclusion or idea or statement that feels true about your heart and your mind, let that show itself to you now. Does your body know about this connection between the heart and the mind? I invite you now to bring your focus to that anchoring part of yourself that we touched into at the very beginning. Just bring your attention to the solid thing that supports you, part of your body that is being held. Maybe begin to wiggle your fingers, move your body slightly. As you're ready, come back into your space. So, my hope is that you are able to feel the difference between the sensations of the mind, the nature of the mind, and the sensations and the nature of the heart. And now that you've given some attention to the difference or the similarities between the two, your body has a new kind of discernment around these two. And so you can ask yourself throughout the month, am I up in my head? And how can I get back in my heart? You can also spend some time this month just sitting and visualizing some of what we did around the heart today and just activate that space. Give it some energy, give it some attention, bring that feeling of love into your heart and then into your mind, and you'll notice that similar shift. So I offer this because I can give you a message about switching from the mind into the heart. But I think for a lot of us, the question then would be, how the F do I do that? And so this is one way. First, it's about noticing the difference between the two spaces so that you can know when you're in one or the other, and also showing you how you can have agency around magnifying the energy of your heart and actually bringing your attention into that space and anchoring there. So that's my reasoning for all of this. And I hope that supports you. I hope this message is helpful for you this month. Once again, check out the Tarot-Scopes. And if you are not already on our email list, I invite you to head over to our website and sign up there, because you'll get the Tarot-Scopes and the reading in your email inbox every month. Also, if you sign up for our email right now, you're going to get a free gift that I created for you, which is a 21-day creativity reset. It's 21 journaling prompts to help you reframe your relationship to creativity, which would be a really nice thing as we head into the fall. So if you sign up for our email list, if you're not already on it, you'll get that right away. All right. I hope this serves you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for watching. Have a beautiful and much cooler September. Love yourself, love the planet, love your neighbor. Enjoy your life. Bye.